I'm a prison prevention specialist. I work with at-risk youth all over the world, and I'm a mentor. I believe in going into the homes of children that have no fathers and just looking to be mentored, need help, need a little guidance. So I'm that guy who goes all over the country, all over the world, finding those children and mentoring them, helping them not go to a place that I went to so long ago. A prison prevention specialist is someone who specializes in a particular field, just as you had a cardiologist or a dermatologist. And I would like to think after 20 years in prison, I would be able and qualified to call myself a prison doctor. Explain your program. Well, it's a program where, again, parents reach out to us if they have trouble with their child that's going in a wrong direction. They call us up or they go on our email and fill out a form identifying what their children may be struggling with. And my team and I put together a schedule where we go into their homes and we kind of mentor them. It's a very elaborate program where it's a shake up. Let's just put it that way. We kind of shake the kids up, you know, not physically, but mentally, to kind of jar them to be receptive to the information we're trying to pour into them. And so far it's been working very well all around the world. We have an 80% success rate at what we do. We've been told that we are the best in the country at what we do. So we take that very humbly, but yeah, so that's what we do. After going to prison for vehicular armed robbery when I was 19 years old and spending all that time behind the walls of prison and coming home after all that time and being in almost like a culture shock, you know, at seeing it, how our society had just decayed, how things were just so vastly different than what it was before I went into prison. The young boys with their pants sagging halfway off their behind, the children calling themselves B's and H's and women responding to it as if that were their names, listening to the music, how degrading and defiling it was. And no one seemed to give a damn. No one seemed to pay this stuff any mind. It was almost as if it became culturally and socially acceptable, that this was just the norm that I would have to get used to, is watching kids smoke weed and call each other names that I knew that were names that if somebody called us back in our day, you'd be on your behind. And just watching the decay of our communities, seeing the fatherless homes. You know, before I went to prison, you know, there were dads in the homes. You know, you would knock on the neighbor's door and some man was answering that door. When I came home, you knock on the door, some woman was answering the door and there was no man to be found. And that was very problematic to me. So I decided to do something about it. I started a 501c3 called Prison Doc Inc. And it just kind of blew up from there. I started networking with the local law enforcement who would share my information and the work that I do with parents. And it just kind of took flight. And that's where we are today. I ended up incarcerated because I was spoiled, entitled, and kind of did things that I knew I shouldn't be doing. The way I ended up committing the armed robbery that I did was because at that time I was very spoiled, self-centered, and just out of control. My father was also a great man, but he was not in the home as much as I would have liked because he was with Motown. My father was a Motown musician who worked with Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson and all the Motown acts. He was a saxophonist by the name of Eli Fontaine, who played on all the Marvin Gaye hits, all the Dramatics hits. He's the horn on the Dells, Baby I'm For Real, that saxophone riff by the Dells, I believe it is, Baby I'm For Real, that's my dad. My father is one of the people who helped Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson start Motown Records before I was born. My father played the horn on What's Going On, Let's Get It On, Inner City Blues, Mercy Mercy Me, all the Dramatics. My father discovered the Dramatics back in the 60s with Don Davis with Stack Records. So my father is the saxophone on In the Rain and What You See Is What You Get. So I grew up under that lineage and that type of school. So my father was always on the road. He was in Europe or he was playing in 20 Grand and all the popular clubs in Detroit back in those days when I was a little kid. So that was kind of problematic for me, even though my dad was a great man with an impeccable reputation music wise. He was not home as much as I would have liked. And I think that caused me to kind of just lash out a little bit and do things that I should not have done. My very first client was a 9-year-old boy in Detroit who was slapping his mother, beating up his mother. He was spitting on his mother. I mean, he was just completely out of control. And so the mother contacted me through the Detroit Police Department, where an officer had called me and told me that he had a mother who needed my help desperately for her 9-year-old son. And so I went there by myself. And at the time, I was a lot more buff. You know, I just came home from prison, you know. And I was able to kind of, you know, just mentor him and talk to him about life and who I was and what I've been through and where he don't want to go. I was able to describe to him that place, you know, and the food and, you know, the dangers of that place and where he was headed had he not changed his ways. You know, I spent about an hour with him. But long story short, it turned out very well. He was my very first success case, I would say. To this day, from what I understand, he has graduated high school. He is doing much, much better. And that was one of my very first interventions I've done with a child. My mission is to save children all over the planet, or all over Pluto, Mars, Venus, Neptune, you name it. Wherever there is a child, I want to help that child. Over 80% of the house calls that we perform are fatherless children. Fathers nowhere in the home. And that is very prevalent all over our country. You know, so for me, it's to reach those children and try to give them a chance, to try to correct them, to try to speak life into them and incentivize them to be better than what they're demonstrating at that time. I'm a firm believer of what the Bible says, that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. You know, so I know that in every child, there's a spirit that is lying dormant, that if they just had the right person to speak to them, to make them understand how powerful and how bad they are, how beautiful they are, the world and the sky would be the limit. After, you know, performing 1,000 house calls at that time, you know, seeing what worked and what didn't work, or, you know, at the time I wasn't really making any money. You know what I mean? I wasn't charging money. To this day, I don't really talk money. I let my team, my director of operations, and they deal with that stuff, the money part, because to me, once you start talking about children and money, things get cloudy. You know what I mean? It takes you from your mission. You know, so for me, I never want to confuse money with the mission. And sometimes people do that. You know what I mean? Everything has to have a monetary value to it. You understand? So me as the prison doctor, that is not my concern. That is not my issue. I let them deal with that. You know what I mean? And they do it very well. So today it pays the bills. But my focus is not money when it comes to a child. I don't even think money should be in the conversation, quite frankly, when it comes to helping or saving a child. And I think that's what's wrong with our legislatures and a lot of people in our world today, is that nobody wants to lift a finger to help a child unless it has an attachment to money. And to me, that is sad and disgusting. Well, it's just like you go to a doctor's office. You know what I mean? You have a problem, you go see the nurse, and the nurse writes up, you know, all the information she can on a chart before she presents it to the doctor. For the doctor can say, this is what medicine that child needs in order to help them. My organization is ran pretty much the same. So they have to go through a nurse, so to speak, you know, and deal with them and get all the, you know, give all the relevant information to them. And then they present it to me. Then I kind of look over everything that's been presented. I talk to the parent or the child to kind of gain further information as, you know, to what could be going wrong. And then I diagnose it and I prescribe the right medicine, and it works like a pill. Is that every time there's a sense of urgency, every time the phone rings and I get the intake form about a child, my first instinct is that of urgency. Is to immediately get in there to help that mother or help that child not do further damage to their lives. Because what people don't understand is that time is of the essence when you're dealing with children. You can't wait to fix a child's problems next week if they're struggling today. Next week may be too late. You understand? I've had parents who would call me and want to put helping that child off, knowing that this child is in an imminent danger of losing their lives or dropping out of school or becoming a drug addict or alcoholic or a womanizer or becoming a father or mother at 13 years old. And parents would want to wait. Within that waiting period, I would get a call later saying, well, it's too late. He's already or she's already locked up in juvie, or they already got kicked out of school, or they already did something that they can't take back. So in my spirit, it's always urgency to get in there as quickly as I can, like 911. You know, when you're getting victimized as a person in your home or somebody's committing a crime and you call 911, you don't expect to see a police officer a week later. You expect to get immediate help because every minute matters. I feel just the same about our children. Well, it's different, right? With the parents, the first thing I do is straight talk. You know, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to sugarcoat the lacking of a parent's job or what they may be doing to negatively affect their child. I tell it like it is. And whether they eat that, you know what I mean, or not is not up to me. I can only do so much. But I am very blunt and honest when it comes to saying, ma'am, sir, you are dropping the ball. You can't be listening to Lil Wayne and Lil Baby and Beyonce, who's calling women B's and H's and talking about drugs and materialism over human life, and your 12-year-old son is sitting next to you on the couch while you're playing the crap. You can't be smoking weed, Dad, in front of your child and wonder why now your child wants to smoke weed. You can't be ushering men through the front door and out the back door, Mom, if you don't want your 13-year-old daughter to be interested in boys. You know what I mean? So I'm very blunt when it comes to that, sir. And I think that's why our organization is as effective and as popular around the world as it has become.
Do you ever get any pushback, and how do you handle it from the parents?
You know, I get asked that question all the time. Do you know that one time? I've been doing this for over 10 years, over 3,000 children. I have not had one issue with a parent. Never. People ask me all the time, has one of these kids ever tried to swing on you? I may have had a child try to, you know, boss up a little bit, but, you know, of course, you know, they're children, so but I don't have those issues. And that's a very interesting question you asked, and I'm glad you did, because a lot of people ask me that, man, have you get pushed back? Because people would DM me sometimes on my messages, which I don't really, you know, read a lot of my messages on Instagram. My team does. And they'll tell me that some of these kids be like, oh, he wouldn't walk up in my house like that, or he wouldn't yell at me like that. Nah, truth is power. Truth is power, and also how you present yourself as a man is power. The reason why a lot of our children today have been very just weakened, and a lot of our men in society have been weakened, is because they've not seen a real man. The essence of a man is just not the same as it used to be. So you know, when children or a man sees another man, they know it's a respect thing. You know, just like I give respect, you're going to give it back to me. I got into martial arts when I was 13 years old. I got my black belt before I turned 18, before I went to prison. It's always a good skill to have. You know what I mean? Anytime you're going into homes where you don't know what you're walking into, you know, these kids may have guns or weapons. Some of these guys are, you know, kids I've mentored are gang members or ex-gang members. You know what I mean? So you don't know what you're walking into. I've walked in the houses and you know, went through a child's room, his drawers, and found, you know, drugs, of course, and weapons. You know, so fortunately, I have a great relationship with the district attorney, Patty A. Gatson of Gwinnett County. He's a good friend of mine. And I've called her out before. Her and her team came to assist me on a house call where a 13-year-old boy had an arsenal of weapons, literally had stole $5,000 from his grandmother to buy an arsenal of weapons, literally handguns, the whole nine. So I had to get the district attorney involved because, again, there's only so far I can go with stuff before I have to, you know, turn it over. You know what I mean? So she came out at that time and brought her security team and police officers, and we were able to get to the bottom of it. My most memorable client, I would have to say, was this 10-year-old boy. Well, it's actually two of them I can remember. That stands out. But this one 10-year-old boy was being taken care of by his 78-year-old grandmother. And she called me. Actually, I got referred to her through the teacher of this young boy. And the teacher called me and said that the grandmother really needed help with this boy because he was abusing her. So the grandmother was very, apprehensive of talking to me. Finally, she did, called me and was very nervous, very, very nervous to even talk to me about what was going on with her 10-year-old grandson. And when she finally told me everything, that he was beating her up and put her in a chokehold, literally put his 78-year-old grandmother in a chokehold and told her, bitch, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to choke you out. Literally told his 78-year-old grandmother. So if you look on my social media, you'll see that one. Matter of fact, the one with the kid with the red on. I don't know if you remember. Yeah, with the red on. He had the little brother and the 70-year-old grandma talking about he smoked weed. She didn't believe that he was smoking weed. But that was one of my most memorable ones, man. Is this little 10-year-old boy putting his 78-year-old grandmother in a chokehold into submission and just abusing her badly. That was one of the most memorable.
So how did that end?
You already know. You already know. I don't. One thing I don't do, I'm not going to leave an elderly woman in despair from a 10-year-old child. It's just not going to happen. And it's never happened. You can talk to any of my class of 3,000 children and families I mentored. You can call any of them. Matter of fact, you can go through my DM. You won't see no complaints on none. You won't see nothing filed on me or a parent saying that I don't get results. You won't see none of that. Now, if a parent does say that, that may be down the line after I leave or the program is over. He reverted back to his old ways because she didn't do what we instructed her to do in order to take care of her child and keep him in check. You see what I'm saying? So that may be a case. But as far as my initial coming into that home and dealing with that child from my program, you ain't gonna see that child doing that crap no more, choking his grandmama at 10 years old. And ain't gonna happen. Well, a lot of them didn't have true parents. A lot of them don't have fathers. They weren't raised properly. So you got to remember those people that was raised pretty much, if they're 30 years or so. So you're looking at somewhere, the 90s and up and through there. See, things changed at that time. Television programming changed. The music changed. Respect changed. God changed. A lot of things changed in the 90s. If you remember the 80s, the music was a little different. You know what I mean? When you were talking about, you're still talking about the Isley Brothers, the OJs. You know what I mean? The Temptations. You were still talking about relevant, people who really spoke about love and sung about love and taught about love. You know what I mean? Even in their music. We still had that ratchet, some of them are, but for the most part though, you had people that was really singing about love and family and would have never thought to be doing the things that a lot of these younger people are doing today, and it's just really sad. I think in the 90s is when people really lost what love looks like, what marriage looks like. I think the rules of engagement in marriage changed. I think the economy changed, so women became a little more, forced to have to be in the work field, not as much as in the home. Not saying that her place is in the home. Her base is in the home, but her place is wherever she wants to go. But I think women lost that a little bit in the 90s, where they started saying, no, my base ain't the home. My place and my base is wherever I want it to be. Right now, I want it to be at the clubs. I want it to be at the party. I want it to be down, I want it to be out. You see what I'm saying? And that changed. In the 80s, it was a little bit different. Women and young girls was being raised and groomed to be married young. You know what I mean? To be about family and to be about one person, one mate. Today, you talk about being with one person, they'll laugh at you at 30, at 40 years old. Having one partner for the rest of your life, that's a joke. Being married, tied up, that's a joke. You hear me? Listen to the music. The music tells it all. Families have been decimated in America. Families have been torn apart. See, back in the day, I have to keep going back in the day. You have to have a base. Back in the day, there was a thing called Sunday dinner at grandma's or grandpa's, where people would do that soul food thing. Remember the movie Soul Food? Where people would come together and exchange thought and idea and learn about love and relationship and hear from the uncles and the aunties about, what was acceptable and not acceptable. There was a teaching of respect in that, in having dinner, because things are being exchanged when we break bread. See, today, ain't nobody breaking bread. You know what they're doing? They're on the phone. They're playing video games. They're too busy. They're tired. You understand? They're running the streets. They're clubbing. They're popping bottles. They're listening to Little Weezy and Beyonce and Sexy Red. I call her Dirty Red. Dirty Red. You understand? That's what they're doing today. And these ain't just kids that's doing that. These are 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds. You understand? Who are idolizing these clowns and have made them national representatives of black people when it comes to family and what decency looks like. And that's garbage. We get a lot of, we have a lot of supporters on social media. A lot of them are clients that I've had for years. We have a very, very strong social media presence. And I think that's because people are sharing the stories of the success of our organization and how their children have transformed from, what they were to being, just very decent kids now. So I think that they're very grateful. We get phone calls all the time, or we get an email, or we get a donation, anonymous donation that, where I pretty much know where it came from. So I think we get a lot of accolades and respect, but I don't do it for that reason. I do it because it's needed, but we get a lot of respect. Well, I stay with a client. It varies. You know what I mean? In the beginning, years ago, it may have been only for a month. It was a 30-day program, but as you grow and you see the need and you learn and, so it's now extended to 6 months, even a year. So we mentor children now for 6 months up to a year, literally, because the team and the staff has grown. So, yeah. What the community role that they play is different than what they actually are playing, right? What they should be playing is an active, role of support. But that's not the reality. The community that I was raised in is not the community today. I hate to say that. I know this is a positive show, but I'm a very honest person. It has failed. It has failed almost to tears. You hear me? The community has failed our children. The system has failed our children. The president of the United States, the government has failed our children. You understand? So, we could talk about, Trump, the vice president and, who's going to be best for our children. I'm just tired of that rodeo. I'm tired of that game. I'm tired of depending on others and looking to others to do for us what we should and can do for ourselves. I'm so tired of kicking the bucket down the hill for somebody else and expecting others to do what you should do as a man in your home, as a woman in your home, as a person in your community. There is no citizenship today. In my day, there was citizenship. Now, you can call it what you want to, but today is nothing. Kids do not care about nothing but themselves. Parents only care about themselves. They don't care about nothing outside of their home. What's going on in the neighbors, down the street, the neighbors, they don't care about that. Matter of fact, they'll tell you, shut the door, mind your business. Just what we do in here. See, and I get that, right? I get that because it's dangerous, right? But back in our day, it wasn't like that. See, we cared about our neighbors. See, if we saw little Johnny down the street slapping on his mother, out in the yard and cussing her, calling her B's and H's, see, that wouldn't happen on my block, in my community. Johnny getting tore out the frame. We're going to deal with Johnny. His little butt going to get beat. You understand? Today, it just ain't like that, man. People don't care about nobody but what's going on behind their doors. And that's why we don't get nowhere as a community and we don't get nowhere as a people. Well, the name came from, as I told you earlier, just like you have a cardiologist or a dermatologist who specializes in a particular field, I would like to think after 20 years in the school of prison, being around every criminal mind and criminal element that you could possibly think of and knowing the thoughts of those criminals and how they operate and why they operate. After that much time in prison, I think I would be qualified to call myself the prison doctor. Normally, I go by the bat signal. So there's this light. They just shine up, right? All right, over Atlanta. It has a prison doctor handcuffs and, and when I see it, prison doctor coming out in his Batmobile, but no. They can find me on my website. We have a website. It's www.theprison.org, or they can reach us at 1-800-369-8932. Someone that has that I've helped has been a part of my organization. One of my partners, actually, I can't say his name, but he is let's say a high-profile director, a very important, prominent person in the nation. Let me say that. I can't give you his name, but he's actually one of my partners now with the Prison Doctor organization. And he became my partner because I actually helped his child. He had found me, his wife had actually found me, and Me and my wife went to their home, and mentored their 10-year-old and turned him around, and they just couldn't believe it. They didn't think that it could be done. He was so out of control and just wasn't listening to them, and they were shocked at the results that I was able to give them. So he wanted to be a partner as a testimony, because he says, man, look, I can testify to the work that you do, and I think I'd be a great addition to the organization with my resources and the leverage that he brings. And he's been one of my biggest supporters since the start of this organization. Yeah, so and we have volunteers as well, people who we've mentored, kids where the moms now are volunteers and stuff like that. So yeah, we have a lot of help. What personal satisfaction do I get? I don't know. I guess that I'm fulfilling my aim and purpose in life, that I'm actually living a purposeful life. I'm doing what I know God has called me to do. And that when I die, I can say that at least I tried. At least I helped. I was a servant. And I tried to give back to the community. I can say that, and I'm okay with it. I know that when I die and people do my eulogy, I know they're going to be there for at least an hour and a half. A lot of people can't say that. There's a lot of people that if they died today, their eulogy will probably be 3 minutes, 3 minutes long, and everybody walking out the door going home. So I'm happy to know that when I die, people will have a lot to say about the prison doctor, about Myron Fontaine, and the life that I lived and the legacy that I left. But behind that is a lot of disappointment too. I'm very disappointed in our community. I'm very disappointed in our society. I think our men have just been destroyed internally. I believe that with all my heart. That this country is just going in the wrong direction, and we are as a whole going in the wrong direction. I think that when we remove God, how we allowed it to happen, removing God from, our lives, where people don't pray no more, people don't attend the mosque or church or whatever their religious beliefs are. They don't look for that spiritual, that spiritual guidance anymore. I think everybody's just become so selfish and thinking that they know it all, and they just want to do it their way. You know what I mean? No, there's nothing holding nobody accountable today. Everybody's just freely doing whatever they want to do and just trying to live their lives. That's okay, right? But when you get to talking about structure and guidance of your child, you can't live that way, because children need structure. They need guidance. They need rules and boundaries. And you have to have something that kind of sets those rules and boundaries. There has to be some kind of accountability for when you break those rules. Well, today, as you can see, I deal with this daily. There's no accountability. Kids fear nothing because they don't have nothing to fear. They don't fear mommy. They don't fear daddy. They don't fear God because they don't know about God or believe in God. They don't fear the teacher. They don't fear the police officer. They fear nothing. You understand? And that's a problem. That's why these kids are in their homes right now beating up on their mothers. This is why they're flipping grown adults off. When you're on the freeway driving by, you see a kid in the back seat just flipping you off for no reason. Kids respect nothing. They're cursing out police officers today. You understand? They fear nothing. See, and again, where am I about to go? Back in my day, see, there was a fear of God. There was a fear of dad. Because they knew that when you disrespect mom, they had to deal with dad. But if dad ain't nowhere to be found and dad ain't in the house, what they got to fear? You understand? So I blame a lot of adults today. I blame a lot of our preachers and pastors today and our imams. I blame a lot of people today for the conditions that our children are in. Because our children are dying every day on the streets. Every day. While we're holding this conversation, some little girl is being raped and molested as we speak, or sex trafficked somewhere else where she don't want to be as we speak. But you got people still right now popping bottles and living freely and doing what they want to do. And nobody cares about the 325,000 children that are missing in America today. Nobody cares about that. Nobody talks about that. And as grown adults, as men and women, that should be our first concern, is protecting children and finding out why are they coming up missing 325,000. What I would like for the society and community to do is to grow the hell up. Stop putting themselves first and get back to putting your children first, our children first. Start getting back into community, understanding what community looks like. Start getting back to generational wealth. What does that look like? Where should our money go? How can we build up our community, particularly the Black community? Because right now we're the ones who's struggling the most. But we struggle because of a lack of knowledge. We struggle because of a lack of finances. We struggle because of just being downright lazy and not having no sense of spirituality, none. We are falling by the wayside every day, and it's getting progressively worse. So I've been sounding this alarm for about a year. I've been sounding the alarm, and I'm going to keep sounding it. Because when I die, I don't want nobody going, they didn't know. So I'm going to cry this all over the country until I die, that we are in trouble. Until adults start growing the hell up, it's going to get worse. Yeah, well, the things that we do in our nonprofit, we deal with drug addiction, depression, violent children. Whatever a child's problem is, we have a solution for it because they're children. Short of a child being schizophrenic, a child that has ADHD, OCD, ODD, a child that just has some behavior problems of dealing with school or being bullied or having a self-esteem issue, we have solutions for those things. It's not an overnight fix, but we have solutions for those things. We turn away no child. No child. You come to us and you're saying that you need help with your child, we're going to give you a prescription that can help you with your child. Period. And my name is Myron Fontaine, also known as the Prison Doctor. You can watch the full interview on Tim Talks.